Wonderful. So yeah, welcome to our session on how can academics from the global north have an impact without imposing their ideals on the global south. We say academics because we are academics, but it's also about changemakers, right? So how can changemakers do this? How many of you are academics? If you could raise your hand. Any academics in the room? Wonderful. You're my family, right? But I also accept others. So anyone who works with the global south or in the global south, raise your hand, please. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll present our insights from our own work, research projects here in the next 20 minutes or so. Then we have time for Q&A as well. So why this topic, right? Why do we engage with and in the global south as global north scholars? Well, 15% of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are only on track. 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries are breached. So the world is kind of in dire crisis, right? And these are global problems that require global solutions. Hence, the global planet needs to be engaged with totally, right? Grand challenges are complex, uncertain, multi-jurisdictional. They are challenges that require interconnectedness. And in a way, we'll show you in a bit that oftentimes the way things work is that the global north has ignored the global south or has maybe extracted data from the global south. But effectively, if we want to engage with global challenges, we need a holistic global approach. We also maybe as one comment here on the title, just one back, we use global north, global south. Even there, we use language maybe that is not fully appropriate. And right now in our current work, we actually call this minority world and majority world. So we refer to the global north as the minority world and the global south as the majority world. Again, this is probably the title that maybe attracts some of you, but in a way that might be even the better language. So tackling grand challenges requires coordinated, collaborative action, right? That means a holistic approach. So how is this done? And I'll present to you now a slide of kind of ideal types of how academics, changemakers engage with the majority world, right? Or engage with each other. These are ideal types, not in the sense that they are good. They are ideal types, I mean, I guess for the academics in the Weberian sense of these are ways of phrasing them in a simple way, but oftentimes in reality is much more complex. So, and there's somewhat of a history here that we've seen in our field, management, organization studies, scholars for especially focusing on ignorance, and I'll walk through these for then awareness, integration, and we hope in the future much more elevation. So what do these means? How do you do a partnership? The first one is ignorance. What we've seen in our field, and maybe also in your field, it depends of course, is that people have done scholarship in the global north and the minority world, and effectively the global south didn't exist, right? So we write research on companies, let's say, in the global north, publish it, and that's it, right? Effectively, it's research and engagement as if the global south wouldn't exist, right? So there's no consideration of the global south, there are no meaningful partnerships, and so on, and effectively ignorance. A second step, which we have seen in the last 20 years kind of unfold in our field, is awareness. And oftentimes with a very, very good intention. And what happens there is that scholars from the global north want to engage with the global south, right? And what happens is that they go to the global south, they collect data, and then they kind of leave, write their paper, and then do the rest as they did before, right? And effectively, to put it bluntly, what oftentimes this means is that the global south becomes a point of data extraction, right? So yes, you are aware of the global south, the majority world, but effectively you extract data and then you say goodbye, right? And the intention is oftentimes good, right? The idea is I need to engage with the challenges and problems in that area, right? So I guess the path is path with good intentions, but then oftentimes what happens is the partnerships are unequal. The resources are that some maybe in the global south collect data, but then they're gone from the rest of the research process. The third step is integration, and Georg, when he take over, he will present our work where we try to move towards integration and elevation. Integration is having a deep local expertise incorporated in the project, right? That can be co-authors from the global south, the majority world. That can be also simply working together with global south activists, academics, change makers, and we'll talk about dialogues we've created, etc. So this is much more of a balanced partnership. And in a way, what I guess when we started our project, we thought this is the ideal type, right? But especially in the last 2 years or so, we kind of realized that sounds correct, right? The integration of global north, global south, kind of an equal footage. But the problem there is that the problem itself, the research problem or the topic you have, is still oftentimes coming from the global north, right? So the challenge, the topic comes to the global south. We are kind of equal, But we come with our problem, we come with our theories, we come with our literature, and effectively we still contribute to our way of thinking, right? And that obviously has a history of colonization, a history of asymmetrical resources, which is challenging there, right? So again, the intentions are good, and many people who do it, again, I don't want to judge. I guess I have done some of these as well, right? And oftentimes with good intentions. So the last step then is elevation. And elevation is really enhancing local expertise, understanding what also in the Global South actually are challenges, topics, problems, interests, and so on, and also feeding back to the Global South, right? So that our research is not just published in effectively Western, Global North, minority world journals, but the question is our insight relevant for the Global South? Was it worked with the Global South? To give just one example, where at the end is the data being put, right? Oftentimes what happens is we collect the data and then the data is stored in Western institutions, right? Or it's published behind paywalls. So again, how does that work? Even to the point at the last one, the elevation pun, we might have, and again, more resources. So we go to conferences, we kind of can publicize our work, and maybe then our colleagues from the Global South cannot, right? How do you engage with that? Now, all that, on the one hand side, is challenging, right? And we try to kind of be into the integration elevation kind of feature. At the same time, it's actually not easy on us too. To give you just one example. So what we've done then with this approach is we've actually commissioned studies, and let me show you actually what we did, and then I'll tell you a bit about this. So we did a couple of projects at the HIC. We tried to really connect research and impact together. So Georg will talk about this project, Sustainability, Entrepreneurship and Global Digital Transformation in 8 countries, or with 8 countries. We also did a project Women in Tech with our team, and we have a future project on strengthening digital skills through micro-credentials. So working especially with the GEZ on projects in and with the majority world. And we also actually are connected to with a network of digitalization centers, over 100 centers globally, where we also try to reach out, have desk swaps and so on, to really be a kind of a global internet institute at the HIC, and trying to kind of engage globally with challenges that are globally as well. So I mentioned that we did things differently than in this project. So the project I'll quickly introduce, and then Georg will zoom in, is the Sustainability, Entrepreneurship and Global Digital Transformation Project SET, which really focuses on sustainability, entrepreneurship and digitalization in the majority world. And what we thought of, I guess, at the beginning of the project is that we had certain topic areas in mind that we thought that our task was to kind of help with these topic areas in the Global South, right? And over time we thought, yes, we have expertise in these areas, but we actually don't have enough context expertise. Also not context legitimacy, right? So what we did there, and I think that is distinct at least for researchers, is we took a step back and became incubators, we became editors, we became moderators instead of maybe writers ourselves. To just give you 2 examples what this means. Normally what we do is we collect data, maybe, right? And then we write papers about it. And what we did here is, instead of us writing papers, we actually commissioned papers to Global South majority world scholars. Right? So we did help with the editing process, etc., but actually Global South scholars at the end published papers. Now we thought this is good. At the same time, for our team, this means we didn't publish any papers, right? So for the academic career, in our case, publishing papers is key. Allowing others to publish papers means we did good, I guess ethically, but maybe not strategically. So what we did is we wrote papers about not writing papers. So that was our answer to this. We wrote about the challenges of not being able to do what we think is ethically right in that process. And another example is the dialogue events, right? So we created actually dialogue events with people there and became moderators instead of ourselves being the expert going there and speaking on topics, right? And I think that was really a mind shift at the beginning of the project that we did there. And with that, I guess I'll stop here. I'll hand over to Georg, who now goes into the nitty-gritty of the SET project, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. Can I have again a smile from everyone just to see that we're all again still there? Yes, I see the smiles. Yes, I can over to Georg with the smiles now.
Thank you, Ali, and great to see that so many of you came to this presentation, given that it's such an important topic. So what we want to do now is to actually share with you 3 principles for rethinking and changing scholarly behavior in these collaboration between Global North and Global South, especially from the perspective of Global North scholars. So let's start with some of the conditions you actually need in order to have impact without imposition. So starting from adopting a decolonial mindset. So I guess especially for management researchers or organizational scholars, this is not necessarily taken for granted. So there are other fields of studies, of course, where people are way ahead in these things. But I guess for us it was kind of, even though we don't have time maybe to completely familiarize ourselves with all of the literature there is out there, to at least have a peek and think about it. Just to give an example, so we did a couple of studies on sustainable entrepreneurship in West Africa, so in Benin, for instance. And there, one of the issues is a lack of local integration between different countries in terms of their economic trade and so on. And this, of course, is a direct consequence of the slave trade, because like the colonizers had little interest in countries collaborating with each other because they wanted to directly control the business. So kind of knowing this, I guess, as a European helps you a bit, maybe approach this a bit more humbleness than otherwise. Second of all, we thought about the importance of integrating flexibility into the grant agreements because, I guess especially all of you who work in change making or academia know how it is when you apply for funding. Oftentimes you don't have time to read everything beforehand and do all of the research that you actually need to decide on all the parameters of the project. And so here we thought about the importance of having some flexibility so that you can adjust the focus of the project depending on what people actually find relevant in the countries that you collaborate with. Third, it's important to have like time and resource buffers, just kind of getting in touch with different stakeholders, maybe also in addition to the ones that you collaborate in the beginning. Let's say maybe you start out with collaborating with ministries, let's say, but then you maybe also want to get in touch with NGOs. All this takes time, and so have some flexibility for that. And then also about resource buffers. So for us in this project, Ali already showed all of the numbers that we had, like in terms of multi-stakeholder dialogues and so on. When we organize a multi-stakeholder dialogue, of course, we want people to also show up and be there. And for that, this has some requirements. And so one requirement might be that you have a very fancy hotel where you have the event in order to attract the stakeholders that you want to attract. And this is something that we maybe didn't necessarily always plan for, that like just the type of money we would need just to book the rooms that we need in order to get local stakeholders involved. Having time and resource buffers. Then the second principle that we want to share is that, so you really engage with the ecosystem to make local context central to research design. And this also involves not relying only on the academic literature for a couple of reasons. And of course, one reason is the time it takes just to write and publish research. So this may be then so basically the new priorities may not actually be kind of written down yet in the literature. And then oftentimes also the literature may be dominated by, let's say, global north priorities and less by the priorities in the majority world countries. So, and third, but not last but not least, of course, also there's this issue that not all of the issues may always be written in kind of what you find in the literature that is in English. So, for instance, we also had a project in Indonesia, and there we didn't always find the studies, which of course doesn't mean that they're not there, but maybe probably just we didn't have kind of look for it in the right language. So what can we do instead of just looking at the literature? It's of course to engage with the ecosystem. Just kind of two impressions here. Is on the left side, this was at the stakeholder dialogue that we organized in Nairobi in Kenya. That was on the gig economy and about kind of thinking about ways to regulate it, where we brought stakeholders together for this and also in a panel discussion. And then on the right hand side you see this was an event in Benin, in Cotonou, and it was all about the potential of AI for sustainable entrepreneurship. And so I think there was actually the first AI conferences in Benin. And so instead of saying, okay, we make our own event, we said, let's just go there and try to connect people who have an interest in this topic. So, and then the third principle is to empower local researchers. Ali already mentioned it, that currently the way it works is that often you have global North researchers who say this is the question and say this is the design, and then also write the paper, and then involve researchers in the Global South as kind of data collectors, and so kind of essentially reducing them to the role of assistants. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. Just some people apparently have mic issues. Okay, so instead we advocate for creating a platform for local researchers, and this can be, of course, be done in different ways. So one thing we did was organize research sprints. So this is a format where we basically brought together sprints of, like, say, of 10 to 15 researchers, including also more, let's say, more junior scholars, to who then could basically define the research question during the sprint, and then also engage with the local ecosystem. So here to the left you see the participants of a sprint in Ghana on sustainable digital economies. Here they were at the Ghana Innovation Lab, but they also met representatives from ministries. And then the other way is, as Ali mentioned, is to commission studies, where we basically rather supported and facilitated by doing the proofreading, for instance, and also kind of connecting the researchers to any context that we have. And here to the right, you can see in the middle of the photo is Tom, who wrote the study on the gig economy that was displayed on the previous slide. So here, regulating of digital platforms for socially just gig economy in Kenya. So he was one of the co-authors of the study, which is also a great study if you're interested in this topic, the gig economy topic, especially, of course, in Kenya. So yeah, these were basically three principles we want to share, but then, of course, there are also a couple of challenges involved by engaging in such projects. And just to give you a sense, I mean, and then this again is more, like, say, from the perspective of being a scholar in the global north and wanting to engage with grand challenges, and then trying these principles. And I think the first one is kind of just finding suitable collaborators. And of course, this is just also a big network issue in the beginning. So best example was really that we wanted to commission a study on using digital technologies for rainforest protection in Indonesia. And yeah, basically being an institute in Berlin, this wasn't that easy. So we actually didn't find Indonesian scholars who were interested in doing this study. And so in the end, we had a team of international researchers, albeit not Indonesian scholars, who did that. And yeah, you can see that to the right. It's also, you find all these studies on our website. The second is about different criteria of worth. What do we mean by that? We mean by that we have, of course, in Germany, but also in the US, a fetish, I guess, for metrics. So we always look at when we have a scholar, look them up on Google Scholar, see how many citations they have, and so on. But this may not always be the basis elsewhere for evaluating scholars and their merits. And so when you have applications, for instance, it can be more challenging to actually make sense of them. The third one is then navigating linguistic ambiguity. So for instance, just take the term sustainability. This may mean so many different things to so many different people. And so, for instance, when we talk about sustainable entrepreneurship, we think about entrepreneurs who do not only want to make money, so kind of pursue commercial goals, but also contribute to society, for instance, do something for the environment or some social cause, advance that. But then also sustainability could mean something like have sustainable growth, right? So in an economy. And so this was something that we realized also in the project that this actually can take some time just to make sense of what everyone means by these terms. Then fourth, we call that blurry professional identities. So essentially it's about that, for instance, in Germany we're privileged that when we are employed, so I'm not, but Ali is a professor at LMU, so once you are employed at a university, you can really focus on research and teaching, but this may not be the case everywhere. So for instance, in Vietnam we learned that many scholars were actually also doing consulting in order to make ends meet. And so when we wanted to involve them in a research sprint, basically where GIZ had paid for everything, but there wasn't a salary involved, right? Because we thought, okay, why would we need that? Because scholars normally have a salary already. Then we learned, however, no, that may not be the case, so they don't have necessarily time for such a project and also need some funding for that. And last but not least, of course, there are operational challenges involved, starting all the way from just kind of trying to find locations over organizing translators and so on. But I guess this is relatively clear. So some concluding thoughts, as Ali said. So if you want to engage in grand challenges and tackle them, this requires partnerships. So no partnerships are no alternative. But then I guess global research partnerships to date are still too often characterized by extraction and short-termism. There's always this image. So why is there like a picture of a person parachuting? It's because this is the image of having this global north researchers coming in, landing, collecting the data and getting out again. And so of course we want to move beyond that. And so basically these principles and takeaways that we outlined may have to rethink and change how we do engage in these collaborations. But of course, this is just kind of the beginning. So we are very interested in learning about your experiences and your perspectives on these issues, and how basically you engage in partnerships, and so kind of continue this conversation. And so we have a couple of questions also to you. Could be interesting, but before that. So here's also our contact if you want to reach out to us after the presentation, because we have to leave also in time then. So feel free to reach out. With the QR code you find the direct link also to all of these principles that we just summarized for you, that were published in Stanford Social Innovation Review. So you can have a look at that. And with that I thank you. We thank you for your attention, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with you. Thank you very much. Hi.
Have a question?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Otherwise I can't hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Hello. My name is Vilaci. I come from Brazil. I'm a scholar in the Brazilian Amazon. So it's very good to hear people start thinking here in the North, global North, about collaboration. One thing that I'd like to hear from you is that you talk about when going to the global South, to start these collaboration projects, and you talk about commissioning papers, you talk about organizing the meetings there, that you are going just to coordinate the meetings. But one thing that I didn't hear is who is deciding the agenda. It's like how are the South scholars or South communities coming to the play with you and decide what are the agenda there, what are the people there need for research or for this collaboration. How do you deal with that in your perspective? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this question, and this is also something we thought about, right? Bachach and Berat said there are different types of power: decision-making, agenda setting, and then preference shaping. So effectively, if we only change decision-making, then the more powerful question about agenda setting is not tackled. And I would even go a step further about preference shaping. But let me answer your question on agenda setting. In a way, we tried with the GEZ to have a very flexible, open approach, so actually that the agenda can be adopted and edited with Global South actors, right? So in a way, to get the funding, we had to write something. At the same time, we want to be flexible so that actually things change. So the topics that we at the end did, as well as the studies we commissioned, the topics themselves change actually when we engage with the Global South. So in a way, the Global South was also an agenda setter in this case. In the paper that we are writing that is published at the end of this year, we're actually wondering whether maybe a better step would be that we would be out of the equation, right? Give the money to the Global South and they invite us to come as moderators and so on, right? That might be an ideal world, but that would require different funding structures. So yeah, in our case, the agenda setting was co-created with the limits, obviously, that the funder before ex ante effectively created regulations and rules about what the funding is about.
Hi everyone, My name is Woodline. I'm from France, and I have a question. And the end of your presentation, you mentioned to find a suitable collaborator. So, what does that mean, suitable collaborator for you? And do you have a criteria for selecting them? If so, are these criteria influenced by methodologies from the north or from the south?
So that's a good question. I think what so in this paper that we're currently writing is like with two co-authors also from South Africa, and so what I think they were saying that currently the problem is that even so, let's say for scholars in the global south, often the way to get prestige is by actually sometimes going to the global north to get these degrees to show to project legitimacy, and so just to kind of I just want to mention that kind of to show that like the complexity of the problem. And so currently I think what we did basically was look at kind of what are the universities in the country which have a reputation in this particular field of interest that we are discussing. So that was kind of the basis that we had. And did that person bring any evidence of they engaged in studies in this field? So whether maybe prior studies on informal entrepreneurship or sustainable entrepreneurship, doesn't have to be the exact same term, but there should be something related to entrepreneurship. Let's say if it's a topic on sustainable entrepreneurship, but nevertheless, it's challenging. So I guess I don't have like all the answers here, but I don't know, Ali, if you want to add anything. Yeah, thank you very much. So I think we have time for one final question. Yeah, then.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I just want to invite everyone who's interested in this type of collaboration to the Global Innovation Gathering. If you walk down, before you come out on the left side, many people also from many different global countries are there, and it's exactly about this: how can we innovate globally together? So, yeah, you're very welcome. Come around.
Thank you. Okay, well then with that, thank you again for coming out, and let's continue that conversation later if you're interested. Thank you.